Welcome everyone to the Healthy Start Coalition of Sarasota County Parenting Series. Today is on hypnobirthing. For most of their lives, women have been inundated, I always screw up that word, with the negative stories of other women's birth experiences. Everyone from their mothers, sisters, aunts, cousins, friends, and even strangers want to tell them the horrors of giving birth. They have been conditioned to believe that excruciating pain is associated with labor, and because of this, women today hold an unprecedented fear of giving birth. This extreme fear causes their bodies to become tense, and that tension prohibits their bodies from easily performing a normal physiological function. The result is exactly what they feared the most: long, painful birthing or unnecessary intervention. It is our honor to introduce Amelia Villada to present today. She became a HypnoBirthing Childbirth Educator with the HypnoBirthing International teaching at the Mongan Method. She has birthed all 3 of her children using the very techniques she teaches. HypnoBirthing is a tried and proven method that guides and prepares women and pregnant people in giving birth in a peaceful and calm manner. It is a program that considers psychological as well as the physical well-being of the pregnant parent, their birth partner, and their newborn, independent of context, whether that be in a quiet home, a hospital, or a birth center. The hypnobirthing program is built around an educational process that includes special breathing, relaxation, visualization, meditative practice, attention to nutrition, and positive body toning. Most importantly, it fosters an air of mutual respect for the birthing family, as well as a healthcare provider in a traditional healthcare system or an alternative setting. Amelia, thank you so much for joining us today. And just to let you know, this will be recorded and it will also be posted on our website for other people to enjoy. So I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you so much. It's been an honor and a privilege to be invited to speak today. I am going to go ahead and share my screen because I do have a PowerPoint that goes along with what I am going to be talking about today. So let me just share my screen here. There we go. All righty. So again, thank you so much for inviting me to present today. This is something that is near and dear to my heart. I have 3 children, and like Sean said, I used hypnobirthing to birth all 3 of them and had 3 very different experiences, but all of them were positive and all of them were hypnobirthing births. So I just wanted to share with Sarasota a little bit about hypnobirthing. So I just want to make sure, can everyone see my screen before I continue? Wonderful. All righty. So just a little bit about me. Again, as Sean said, my name is Amelia Villada. I am a certified hypnobirthing childbirth educator. I am a hypnobirthing mom. I've utilized hypnobirthing with all 3 of my births. I'm a mother and a wife, and I am a recent transplant from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And I have been here since August of 2018. So I'm still fairly new to the area and getting to know the birth culture here, because for those of you that may be in healthcare, you know that culture is very different depending on what city you go to. And so I am very much learning about Sarasota, and I'm very pleasantly surprised with the positivity that I've seen, particularly when I experienced my birth at Sarasota Memorial Hospital. It was an extremely pleasant experience, and I will talk a little bit more about it today. But I'm also a staunch advocate for women and family-centered birth. I think that the pendulum has swung very far in one direction and is now slowly swinging back to a more centered view of care, right? So I often ask what brought people to this particular talk. I know Sarasota, Healthy Start Sarasota is doing a lot of different talks and presenting a lot of different subjects in regards to parenting. And so I just like to kind of throw this out there for people. What made you interested in this particular talk, right? For those of you that may currently be pregnant or expecting or are planning on getting pregnant, maybe you're scared of the process and don't know what to expect. Maybe you're just curious. Maybe you have passed your birthing years and you're just curious to know what is hypnobirthing. So maybe your curiosity brought you here today. Maybe you're experiencing some nervousness around childbirth, right? Or like many women, maybe you've heard horror stories about previous births of other women, or you've had a traumatic birth experience yourself and you want to know how can you alter that and not repeat that same experience. Some of you may be seeking alternatives, right? You just kind of want to see what's out there, what's available, than just kind of your standard model. Some of you just want to educate yourselves and just be aware of the options, right? Or what is hypnobirthing? Maybe you've heard about it in the news. I know the royals used hypnobirthing, so Meghan Markle as well as Duchess Kate used it to birth all of their children. And then maybe you just are interested in adding to your toolbox, right? How can I be more relaxed in general? So that may have brought you here today. So birth and trauma, unfortunately, about 1/3 of women describe their birth experience as traumatic. And up to 6% of these women can go on to develop acute stress disorder or postpartum traumatic stress disorder. And then some people don't know this, but fathers can also develop post-traumatic stress around birth as well. So 1 in 7 mothers and 1 in 10 fathers can develop postnatal depression as a result of their birthing experience. So when we say traumatic birth is essentially defined as a loss of sense of control, feeling like you don't have a say in what's happening around you. It can be defined as not feeling heard by your healthcare provider, right, or health professionals. It can be described as a feeling of feeling isolated or alone during your birthing experience or even your pregnancy, feeling anxious and afraid, fearing for your baby and your own life, right? And it makes no difference as to whether these things are actual. It's a matter of feeling. If you feel this way, then your body is going to have a physiological response to those thoughts and those feelings. Okay, so women who describe having a traumatic birth experience are affected by having that sense of self, right? Feeling like their confidence in their body's ability to do what it was designed to do. It can affect their relationships with others. It can affect the mother-baby bonding experience. It can also affect future births and also social, emotional, and mental development of the baby. So that initial bonding, that we call it the golden hour or that 4th trimester, that can be affected. That bonding between mommy and baby can be affected by all of these elements of depression or having a traumatic birth experience. Okay. So what if I said that your birth can be all of the things listed here? Birth can be empowering. For some women, they describe it as euphoric. It can be gentle. It can be calm. It can be amazing. It can actually be comfortable. It can be awesome. It can be an ecstatic experience. It is undoubtedly transformational. It can be incredible. You can feel connected to those that are supporting your birth, your baby, and your birth partner. It can actually be enjoyable, and it can be collaborative. I have to say without a doubt, and people look at me crazy when I say this, but I genuinely enjoy giving birth. My husband has informed me that we are done with 3, but I genuinely do enjoy giving birth. The amount of connectiveness I feel with my body, with my baby, and with those that are supporting me is immense. It is an experience that I have never felt outside of that particular setting. Okay. So HypnoBirthing is actually a leading childbirth education program. It is an international program, and it is in 30 different countries. It's been translated into various languages. but it's on the rise. It's been around for 30 years. So even though some people are just catching on to hearing about hypnobirthing, it has been around for quite some time. So some of the benefits of hypnobirthing, and this is what a lot of our families have reported. So fewer interventions, fewer cesareans, fewer cases of preeclampsia, fewer inductions, fewer premature babies, and fewer low-weight babies, as well as fewer experiencing postnatal depression. So fewer moms experiencing postnatal depression. And this is anecdotal, so this is all information that we've collected from our families that have completed hypnobirthing. And I will say this, that many people who have done hypnobirthing have already set in their mind that they want to experience these types of things, right? So there's not necessarily a cause and effect relationship, it is anecdotal. But usually people that seek it out have already made up in their mind that that's the type of experience that they want. And so the outcomes that are reported are in line with that desire. Okay. Hypnobirthing families also reported less need for painkillers. They've experienced shorter labors overall. We tend to get feedback from families that they are more content and more happy with their birthing experience and with their fourth trimester, their postnatal experience. We've also had reported higher prolonged breastfeeding rates, so families being able to enjoy the breastfeeding journey for a longer period of time. Moms also reported feeling heard, understood, and respected during their pregnancy and birth experience. So you wonder, okay, hypnobirthing, I haven't really heard that much about it, or maybe you have heard about it. So it all began with our founder, Marie, who often went by Mickey Mongan. She actually recently passed away about 2 years ago. And it was her that kind of set out to change the game. So she actually had her babies in the late 50s and early 60s, where it was actually pretty customary to anesthetize women when they were giving birth. And so they would put them to sleep and they would usually do a forceps delivery, and then they would meet their babies a few days later. So that was the common practice when she was giving birth. And she thought, I want to do this differently. And she actually read a lot of the writings of Dr. Grantley Dick Reed, who is a founder kind of the natural birth movement back in the early 1900s. And she decided she wanted to set out and do it differently. So she said that essentially her dream is that every woman everywhere will know the joy of a truly safe, comfortable, and satisfying birthing for herself and for her baby. So she kind of decided, this is what I want for myself. And it wasn't until she was expecting a grandchild that she wrote the program for her daughter. And then everyone said, you have to share this with the world. And so that's how hypnobirthing was born. Hypnobirthing, the first hypnobirthing baby was born in 1990. But she has been kind of cultivating hypnobirthing. It was her life's work. So hypnobirthing is essentially a complete antenatal education program. It is a 12.5-hour course that we break up because it is a lot of information to take in. There are a lot of different courses that do like an intensive weekend. We have found that it is better for families to break the information up to be able to absorb it and practice it before moving on to the next subject. So it consists of 5 modules that we typically teach on a weekly or bi-weekly basis. It's a 2.5-hour class per week that we teach. And the course is offered in group sessions or private sessions. And we teach online and in person. So we want to be aware and conscious of the current climate that we're in with the pandemic. And we essentially work with families based on their comfort level. But the course essentially comes with the textbook that essentially gives the background and the foundation of Mickey Mongan's story and the research that she's done to back up the methodology that she teaches. It also includes an MP3 download card, which provides the hypnosis script that is central to the program. The rainbow relaxation is what all of our moms listen to on a daily basis, so that we are speaking to the subconscious and prepping the subconscious for birth. We are using a lot of positive affirmations in these scripts, and there are also visualizations. Parents will get, and I don't know that you can see this very well, but they also get a companion reader, which has all of the scripts. This is essentially the toolbox to be able to pull from during your practice and during birth. We also utilize visualizations. We go over birth preferences, and any family that takes the course gets ongoing support from their HypnoBirthing Childbirth Educator. So this program is essentially designed to empower and inform parents to be able to make informed decisions about their birth experience, about their care team, and about the care that their baby will receive. So it is as much a philosophy as it is a technique. And I stand by this. I use a lot of hypnobirthing techniques in my everyday life because of all of the breathing that we focus on, the different breathing techniques, different visualizations, relaxation. And it's so funny, my daughter, who's now 4, there was a period when she was taking regular naps that she requested to listen to the rainbow relaxation to help her fall asleep, because she listened to it in utero when I was listening to it for preparing for my own birth. So the hypnobirthing philosophy essentially is that birth is natural and normal, and it's healthy. So anyone that is experiencing a healthy pregnancy, carrying a healthy baby, can expect a healthy outcome, right? A natural, normal process. Yes, interventions are sometimes absolutely necessary, but birth naturally is a physiological process. It doesn't need assistance if there are no extenuating circumstances or special circumstances. Birth has a natural rhythm and flow that works best if we leave it undisturbed and allow it to carry out, right? It has ebbs and flows. Sometimes it's not a linear process. It's not start, stop, right? Or beginning, end. Sometimes there are natural rises and falls to labor. The length of pregnancy and labor is going to be different for each baby and shouldn't be rushed unnecessarily. I've had 3 different births. All of them were hypnobirthing births, and all of them were extremely different. With my first, it was a spontaneous labor, and there was very little intervention. I delivered in a hospital with a midwife, and it was about a 12-hour birth. With my second, again, a spontaneous birth. It was faster. I delivered in a birth center with a midwife, and it was about, from start to finish, an 8-hour birth. With my third, conventional wisdom would tell you that a third child is usually going to come faster and may come sooner. Well, not the case. With my third, I reached all the way to 42 weeks and had to actually be induced. But that labor also was very quick once things got going, and was very smooth. So I've delivered in all different types of settings. But at the heart of it all, this philosophy we held true. So we intervened when necessary, but we let the labor kind of take its own course as it needed to unfold. So I've had 3 different experiences, but I've used hypnobirthing with all 3 of them. So how do we do the 5 modules? So the first module that we cover in hypnobirthing is building a positive expectancy. If all you are inundated with is negative images, negative experiences, then it's hard to imagine a positive birth experience for yourself. And so in the first class, we actually go over the history of women in birthing. We talk about why we can have an easier, more comfortable and safer birthing experience. We talk about the physiology of birth, how nature has perfectly designed our bodies to be able to birth our babies. And we talk about how to assist rather than resist what our bodies are doing. So we have natural birthing instincts that we can learn to kind of tap into. However, because a lot of us hold fear, we tend to resist what our bodies are naturally trying to do. We also change the vocabulary that we use. So we go over the medical terminology that we may hear in a medical setting, and we go over the language that we use to replace that. So some of the fear that is elicited during the birthing experience and pregnancy is a lot of us aren't trained medical professionals, and a lot of the language that is used can seem foreign to us. So if we don't know what that language means, that can be a source of fear or concern for us. And so when we break it down into layman's terms and describe using regular everyday language what is actually happening, then that can remove that fear, right? So we understand. So an example would be instead of saying, let's say dilating, right? So what does that mean? Dilation and effacement. Those are words that we don't use in an everyday language, right? I don't say the door is dilating as I open it. It's not a word that I use in everyday language, no. So we talk about thinning and opening. We are describing what the cervix is doing, what the process is, that is happening. So we will say the thinning and opening phase. Okay. Another thing that we go over in the first class is visualizing gentle births by viewing gentle births. So we view birth videos in every single class so that we can replace any of the imagery. Most people, I always ask them, when's the first memory you have of childbirth, right? A lot of them point to the media, right? Seeing a movie where a birthing woman was shown, right? And it being chaotic and loud and lots of screaming. And so we need to kind of reverse that and replace those images with images of calm, gentle births. And so that's what we do in the first class. In the second class, we go over pre-birth bonding. So people don't realize that the 9 months or 10 months of pregnancy isn't kind of like a grace period, right? Where you just kind of get to do whatever. And then now it's time to parent, baby is here. You can actively parent while baby's in the womb and bond with your baby. So we talk about falling in love with your baby and preparing for baby's arrival. We also go over baby's experience in the womb. So we're led to believe that babies don't remember birth, they don't remember that experience, but there are actual studies that have shown that when mother or a birth partner has read like Dr. Seuss to the baby in utero, or has played or sung a particular song, when baby is born, those infants actually notice that language or that rhythm. Their sucking patterns change. So they would measure their sucking patterns when there was no stimulus, and then they would begin reading the Dr. Seuss book, or they would begin singing the lullaby, and the baby's sucking patterns would change. So we talk about that experience for a baby and how to nurture the baby in ways other than just nutrition, but emotional ways to connect with baby and nurture baby there. We also talk about breathing techniques for labor and birthing. We talk about hypnotic relaxation and visualization. And I'll just say this for everyone. All hypnosis is self-hypnosis. So no one is trying to make you bark like a dog or quack like a duck. So all hypnosis is self-hypnosis. Essentially what a practitioner does is they lead you in guided meditation and relaxation. And so you are the one controlling how deeply relaxed you get. So some people are very impressed that they can relax so quickly, but the mind is a very powerful tool. We also talk about selecting the right care provider, the birth companion's role in the birthing experience. So yes, women are giving birth, but they also should be having a support system around them to aid them in this process. And so regardless of the relationship, so whether it's a parent, a friend, a sibling, there should always be someone there to help support the birthing individual, right? So everyone's welcome to attend a class. It doesn't have to be couples. It can be any support person that is going to be assisting in the birthing process. We also talk about preparing your body for birthing. by toning, right? You wouldn't go run a marathon without having practiced or worked out. So we talk about different birthing positions, different comfort measures. We talk about ways to help physically prepare your physical body for birth. We also talk about nutrition for pregnancy and for birth. And we talk about prenatal bonding techniques. So how to bond with your baby when your baby is still in the womb. Things like singing, things like taking, some people are good at journaling. I'm not very good at that. So there's lots of different techniques that we cover depending on what your comfort level is and what interests you. In the third class, we talk about preparing for birth. So welcoming baby, preparing your body for birthing. We talk about various comfort measures like light touch massage, labor massage. We talk about body work. So helping your body work for you and with you. We talk about how to avoid artificial induction if it is not medically necessary, and how to help achieve a more natural start to labor. We also do a relaxation hypnosis script where we release negative emotions and fears, as well as limiting thoughts. So fear has a profound impact on labor. It has a profound impact on pregnancy as well. We hold fear in our body, and it manifests in various ways. And we talk about how to eliminate that and release that fear so that we can be tension-free. In the fourth class, we talk about labor and what happens. So an overview of labor. We talk about the onset of labor and that thinning and opening phase. We explain birth simply with what is physically happening in the body. So we will reference medical terminology and its hypnobirthing counterpart, so the language that we use to describe what's happening in layman's terms. We talk a lot about getting settled in to whatever birth environment you are choosing, so whether that be a home birth, a hospital birth, or a birthing center birth. We also talk about preparing for labor, so the hallmarks of labor, how to know when you're really in labor, so what those true signs are. We also talk about what to do if labor arrests or slows. So we provide kind of a toolbox for birth companions, so whether that be a doula, a partner, a parent, a sibling, so that they can reference that toolbox to be able to assist with helping with labor to get it to pick back up. And sometimes it may just be resting, right? So we talk a lot about that. We also talk about ways to move when labor is advancing and preparing to birth your baby in the way that feels comfortable to your body. We also talk about protecting the natural birthing experience. So if that is something that you are choosing, if you are choosing to have an unmedicated birth, whatever your birth choice is, how to go about to protect that, and whatever birthing choices you desire for your birth, how to have a plan of action and how to continue to support that plan as your labor progresses. And then we also talk about birth rehearsal imagery. So actually practicing the birth, seeing the birth, and helping that birth to materialize. The fifth and final class is essentially the actual birthing phase. So as baby is being born. So we talk about what to expect. We talk about positions for descent, right? So traditionally, women have often been told to lie on their backs with their knees up, and that's the position. There are many, many positions that women can labor and birth in, and we'll go over all of those. And I always tell people, whatever your body feels comfortable doing, then that's the position you should get in, unless there are some special circumstances that prevent that from happening. We talk about breathing baby down as opposed to pushing. So traditional or conventional wisdom, there's a typical style of pushing, kind of chin to your chest, knees up. In hypnobirthing, we use our breath to guide baby down. So we don't actually force push. So we go over how to use your breath in order to move baby along. And then we talk about allowing baby to self-latch. So we talk about that initial golden hour, right? That first hour when baby is born, and how to go about breastfeeding if that's a choice that you want to make, and how to incorporate that first golden hour or golden 2 hours, right, of family bonding, right? So skin to skin, we talk a lot about that. And then we also talk about the 4th trimester, which is the period after baby is born. Traditionally, it's anywhere from 40 days to a whole year, depending on what your cultural background is. So we talk about what to expect during that period of time. So for those that complete hypnobirthing, these are the things that they will come away knowing. They will come away knowing the stages of labor and how to navigate through them. They will learn relaxation and self-hypnosis techniques. They will learn about nutrition for pregnancy and for birth. They will also learn supportive techniques for themselves and for their birthing partner. So whether that's a doula or a partner, a spouse or a friend, a parent, whomever. They'll also learn breathing techniques to help birth the baby. They'll learn visualization techniques, how to stay in a very deep, relaxed state during their labor as it progresses. They'll also learn about special circumstances, so when medical interventions are necessary and how to navigate those. They'll also learn about massage for eliminating or reducing pain, so different types of comfort measures. They'll learn about acupressure and rebozo skills. They'll also learn about pre and perinatal bonding, so ways to incorporate current children into the bonding experience, also ways for them to connect with their babies as well. They'll also learn about breastfeeding and ultimately how to advocate for their birthing choices. So ideally, what I love so much about this course is it puts the responsibility on us as the consumer to be able to pick the care provider that best meets our needs, that will support the birth choices that we are wanting for ourselves. And so it puts the responsibility on us as the parents to make these choices and not have them made for us. And so we give you the tools to be able to do the research, to be able to ask the questions that you want answered. So these are some things that some of our hypnobirthing moms are saying about the program. 3 hours of active labor spent mostly at home and 30 minutes of calm breathing. Anthony was able to calmly and excitingly catch Blake in the water as he made his entrance. So I'm not going to read all of these verbatim, but I am going to leave them on the screen. I'm going to share just a little bit about my birthing experience. I'm just going to share about my last experience because I have a lot of moms that say, well, if I want an epidural, can I do hypnobirthing? And I say, absolutely. For those that have given birth, you don't get the epidural right away, right? You have to actually labor. You have to get to a point where they can administer the epidural. So they want to make sure that you have an established labor pattern before moving to those types of interventions or medication. So hypnobirthing is absolutely for you if you feel that you are going to want an epidural, because you still have to be able to manage through early labor, right? So this will give you the tools to be able to do calm breathing, to be able to get through the first part of labor so that you are able to reach the point where you can get an epidural. It makes you feel more calm, more in control, and more secure. Right. For me, I had to be induced, right? So here I am, 3rd-time mom, expecting to, go into labor spontaneously. And that was not the case, right? So hypnobirthing also prepares you to be able to accept whatever turn your birthing takes, right? We technically do not get to decide what our babies think is best, right? Our babies are going to come when they are ready, or they're going to let us know that, hey, they may need some assistance, right? So for me as a childbirth educator, having to be induced was like, wait a minute, I have all these tools. Why do I have to be induced? Well, it's because that's what my baby needed. That was the turn that my birthing took. And so with my birth community and the support that I had, I was able to refocus my attention on allowing any interventions that were necessary to be for the good of myself and for my baby. And I ended up having an induction with just Pitocin, and that was all that I needed. And I was able to release and relax and give over myself to my birthing body and my baby. And I had a fantastic, amazing birth at Sarasota Memorial Hospital, even though I was intending to birth in a birthing center. And so I feel like hypnobirthing empowered me to be able to accept that and to be able to still have the birthing experience that I wanted, even though the initial setting was different. And I was able to advocate and communicate my birthing wishes to my care team, and they were able to respect that desire and were able to support me in that journey. I always say hypnobirthing found me because I wasn't really looking for it. I just knew I wanted something a little bit different. I took hypnobirthing with my first, and he's 13. And so there was a bit of a lull in between, and I decided, you know what, I need to take hypnobirthing one more time for this next birth because 9 years have passed and I don't know that I remember all of the techniques. And after I took it for the second time, I realized, wow, this is something that I absolutely have to share with other families. And so I ended up learning how to teach hypnobirthing to other families. So hypnobirthing dads are also commenting on the experience of taking the class and feeling much more prepared to help assist their partners in labor and in childbirth. And a lot of them are saying that without the class that they kind of felt lost. They weren't really sure what to do. So it's beneficial for birth companions as well, just as it is for birthing women. So that's actually a picture of my husband. I just realized that. I typically like to do a hypnobirthing exercise with people so that they can see that their minds are very powerful tools that they can use. So for those of you that are on the call, those that I can see, we're going to do a quick little exercise with our minds. All right, so I want you to close your eyes gently. I want you to put your arms out in front of you. Okay, hold your left hand with the palm facing up and your right hand with the palm facing down. Okay, they're not touching, they're just out in front of you. Okay, so as if your shoulders were square right apart. So like you're doing like the, I don't know, the Macarena, right? So your hands are out next to each other, but not on top of each other. Okay, so left hand, palm up, right hand, palm down. Okay, I want you to envision that I have just tied a helium-filled balloon to your right wrist. It is a red balloon, and it is gently tugging up on your wrist, gently tugging towards the ceiling. Now I want you to imagine that I've put a wet pail of sand on your left wrist. Feel that wet pail of sand getting heavier and heavier, pulling and tugging your left wrist down. Notice that the red balloon continues to lift up, up, up towards the ceiling. And boy, that left arm is just heavy, heavy. That pail continues to pull your arm down, down to the ground. Your right wrist is pulling up, up towards the sky. Your left wrist is pulling down, down with that heavy pail of sand. Take a deep breath in and open your eyes. Notice your wrists. Where are they? Most people find that they are farther apart than when they first initially started, right? So the brain is a powerful, powerful thing. We talk a lot about the laws of mind, right? There's a law called the mind is a robot, essentially, that, sorry, the body is a robot. So the body can't do anything without the mind telling it to do so, okay? So this is a powerful tool that we use in hypnobirthing, is the power of the mind being able to tell the body what it's sensing, what it's feeling. I use the example of little kids. Typically when little kids fall, if they injure themselves but don't notice, they go right to playing. But as soon as they see a scratch or a little bit of blood, then the water works, right? So pain is a delayed response. So we have to actively think about it before we respond to it, right? So that's a little something that I like to share with individuals. So I know we are running a little bit behind on time, so we have ample time, but that is the gist of hypnobirthing. So are there any questions?
We do have a question in the chat box, Amelia. It says, if there is an abuse trauma history for the patient, does hypnobirthing address or support women who have trauma histories?
I would say hypnobirthing is a supplement to that. And as hypnobirthing practitioners, there are some that are trained in exploring trauma and healing trauma. The program itself is not designed for that. So we would definitely refer out in that case. But it would be a great pairing. Typically, most practitioners, most hypnobirthing educators ask if someone has experienced previous birth trauma or abuse in their past. That way we know, and we can be sensitive to that fact and check in with those individuals about how to best navigate their experience with hypnobirthing.
Does anyone else have any questions? Amelia, that was wonderful. Thank you so much for taking the time to present. And I'm just so excited that this goes on our website. So we're still trying to figure out the best time for this, but a lot of our parents are taking advantage of these series that are put on our website. So thank you so much for giving us your time today. And thank you to those of you that joined us. And if you want, Amelia, could you put your email in the chat in case anyone has any questions for you?
Absolutely, I can absolutely do that. And I should say this because I know some people ask, when are classes? So I typically have a rotating schedule. I am teaching in person as well as online. Online classes for my practice. There are other hypnobirthing practitioners in the area. So you can also go, and I'll put this in the chat as well, to if you are not necessarily directly in Sarasota, maybe you're closer to St. Pete or other locales, there are other practitioners. So I will put the main international website in the chat so that you can look at who's closest to you. But a lot of practitioners, due to the pandemic, are offering classes online from the privacy of your own home. They are group classes still, so there are other families that are logging in to a Zoom-like format.
Wonderful. And just to let everyone know, our next parenting series is Tuesday, April the 13th. And it's on self-care builds resilience, and Resilient Retreat will be presenting then. And then we also have our drive-by baby shower, which is on Saturday, March 13th from 10 to noon at the Glasser Schoenbaum campus. So again, Amelia, we can't thank you enough for all the wonderful things you shared with us today, and that we can definitely, those of us that work for Healthy Start, can pass on to our clients. So again, thank you. And thank you everyone for joining us. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Amelia, it's Patricia. Hi.
Patricia.
Just wanted to ask you, I know I had extended